You question my right to rule. You forget who I am. I am Alexander, and I will not be defied.
The clash of steel echoed beneath the burning skies of Babylon. Tens of thousands of Macedonian soldiers, men who had once followed Alexander to the ends of the world, now knelt in silence. Before them stood their young king, tall and defiant, his eyes blazing, his voice thunderous. "Do you wish to abandon me? Then go. But before you leave, hear what I have to say." The air was so heavy that even the winds over the plains of the Tigris seemed to hold their breath. The man once hailed as the son of Zeus now stood pleading for the loyalty of those who had once followed him without question. How could an empire once thought invincible come to this moment of betrayal? In 324 BC, at the city of Apis, Alexander the Great, the conqueror who had marched from Greece to India, faced the greatest tragedy of his life, rebellion from his own army. Why did the man once called king of the world lose the hearts of his own soldiers? By the end of this video, you'll know, and perhaps you'll understand why glory and loneliness always walk hand in hand. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the greatest stories ever told in human history. When people think of Alexander, they often remember only a young king who conquered the world. But few truly understand that before he became the Great, he was merely the son of another great man, King Philip II of Macedon. Philip laid the foundation. Alexander turned that dream into legend. As historian Robin Lane Fox once wrote, if Philip was the architect of the empire, then Alexander was its immortal soul. His childhood was far from easy. Under the stern guidance of Aristotle, Alexander grew up surrounded by Greek philosophy and an unrelenting hunger for immortality. He lived his youth beneath the vast shadow of his father, a man feared and admired across all of Greece. Yet deep within him burned a fire, the fire of someone who refused merely to inherit a throne, but yearned to surpass it, even if it meant outshining his own father. When Philip was assassinated in 336 BC, Alexander was just 20 years old. In less than 2 years, he crushed every rebellion, unified Greece, and proclaimed his grand campaign against Persia, the most powerful empire in the world at that time. At his very first battle, the Granicus, he led 35,000 men to defeat over 50,000 Persian soldiers, and the path to immortality was opened. But what truly set him apart was not just victory. It was his unwavering belief that destiny itself had chosen him to do what no man dared to dream. He once said, "There is nothing impossible to him who will try." From a young prince in Pella to the man who stood atop the world, Alexander did more than inherit power. He redefined it. Yet, that same burning ambition would one day ignite the tragedy of his life. In the blazing sun of Mesopotamia, Alexander stepped onto the wooden platform at the square of Apis. Before him stretched a sea of faces, men who had crossed deserts, climbed mountains, and crushed kingdoms beside him. Now, those same faces were blank, their hands hanging limply at their sides. He drew a deep breath, then spoke, his voice low, but carrying like thunder. "You say you wish to go home. Very well. But before you leave, listen to me. I want you to remember how I have treated you." His words were calm, yet each one cut like a blade. He spoke of his father, King Philip, the man who had turned Macedonia from a land of shepherds into the master of Greece. Then he pointed to himself and declared that he had gone beyond his father's wildest dreams, crossing the Hellespont, defeating Darius, seizing Egypt, Babylon, Persia, even India. All those lands, he said, "You are the ones ruling them." Not he raised his arm, scarred from years of war. "Do you see this? There is no part of my body unmarked by wounds. Sword, spear, arrow, stone. I have taken them all. For you, for our glory." Then Alexander paused. His gaze swept across the silent ranks, his voice softening, trembling between sorrow and fury. "I have paid every debt owed to you. I gave you wives. I buried your dead in gold and honor. And now, you would leave me?" A deathly silence fell. The desert wind stilled. Then came his final words, quiet, but sharp as steel. Then go, when you return to Macedonia, tell them this, that you abandoned King Alexander, the man who conquered Persia, crossed the Indus, and marched farther than even Dionysus dared. You left him behind, surrounded by the very foreigners you once defeated. No one answered. Only the scorching wind moved, circling like a ghost around the field, and one by one, the soldiers lowered their heads, for in that moment, they understood. They had not betrayed a king. They had betrayed their own glory. After the speech, the entire camp fell silent. No more clashing swords. No triumphant shouts, only the quiet, weary breaths of men who had once followed him to the ends of the earth. They realized that the king standing before them was not merely a commander who gave orders. He was a man who had bled beside them, thirsted beside them, and sacrificed his youth for a dream too vast for any one life to hold. The historian Arrian wrote, "No king had ever spoken to his men like that. Alexander did not beg. He made them ashamed, and it was true." One by one, the soldiers broke down, tears streaming down their faces as they fell to their knees. A thunderous cry rose across the camp. "We will stay. Forgive us, Alexander." But inside Alexander, something had already broken. He looked at them, neither angry nor joyful, for deep down, he knew the loyalty he had just reclaimed was no longer pure. He had conquered the world, but he had lost the one battle every leader must one day face, the battle for the human heart. After the events at Apis, Alexander granted a great amnesty. He arranged mass weddings between his Macedonian soldiers and Persian women, an attempt to unite two worlds. Yet this very act branded him a traitor in the eyes of many, a man who was Persianizing the soul of Greece. The price of power was solitude. Less than a year later, Alexander died in Babylon at just 32. The cause remains a mystery: illness, wine, or poison. No one truly knows. But one truth endures. He died at a time when no one around him dared to speak the truth. His empire crumbled soon after, but his words at Apis still echo across the ages. It is not the sword or the spear that destroys great empires. It is pride, and that is the eternal tragedy of power. In the end, Alexander did not die amid the roar of victory. He passed quietly, in a palace far away in Babylon. He had no true friends left, no army bound to him by unshakable loyalty. Only generals already whispering about how to divide the empire he once held together. And perhaps, in that final moment, he understood. The man who conquered the world could not conquer the hearts of men. But if we look deeper, Alexander was more than a symbol of power. He was a mirror, reflecting the fate of all who dared to dream beyond their limits. When we have everything, can we still hold onto ourselves? When we stand at the very peak of glory, is there anyone left beside us who stands there not for gain, but for love or loyalty? His story does not belong only to the 4th century before Christ. It speaks to every leader, every dreamer today. The greater the glory, the deeper the loneliness. And perhaps that is why his name endures, because the world will always need those who dare to reach for the impossible, even if it costs them their soul. Now, it's your turn. What would you choose? A quiet, ordinary life? Or a glory so great it might leave you utterly alone? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if stories like this move you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell to join us on our journey through the greatest tales in human history.